Professor K. Ramasubramanian, Chairperson, Mathematics Curriculum and Textbook Committee, Bhartiya Shiksha Board, is an eminent Indian scholar with exalted expertise in Sanskrit, mathematics and astronomy. His visionary and pioneering works have placed India's vast scientific brilliance and heritage in the world stage. He holds a doctorate degree in theoretical physics, a master's in Sanskrit, and a bachelor's in engineering, a formidable combination with which he has re-established some of the lost treasures of our ancient Indian knowledge traditions. Professor Ramasubramanian's life unbiased research and work has been dedicated in part to bring to light contribution of Indians to the world body of knowledge. He has brought out several well-researched monographs that give India its due pedestal in the history of science and mathematics. He serves as the Institute Chair Professor, leading several research activities for the Cell for Indian Science and Technology in Sanskrit at the Indian Institute of Technology, Bombay, India. His pioneering research on the Indian scientific literature in Sanskrit has led him to path-breaking books, editing several volumes and writing more than 200 articles that have proved the might of India's scientific heritage and our sound legacy system of education. Among several other awards and accolades, the President of India conferred upon him in 2008 the prestigious Maharshi Badrayan Vyas Samman in recognition for his unique work for bringing about the synergy between tradition and modernity. He was honored with the coveted title Vidvat Pravar in 2003 by the Shankaracharya of Sringeri Sharda Peetham for demonstrating his mastery in Advait Vedanta by completing a rigorous 14-semester program. Param Pujya Swami Ramdev Ji conferred upon him Patanjali Gaurav Samman 2022 in recognition of his contribution to designing the mathematics curriculum of the Bhartiya Shiksha Board. Professor Ramasubramanian does not confine his outcomes to scholarly circles alone, but has strived to make ancient knowledge system accessible for everyone to learn and to thoroughly enjoy them. His crisp lectures and video talks heard in the digital and social media are highly popular across the world, with one of his lectures, Computing Pi, the Indian Method, attracting more than 1.3 million views. This stand testimonial to the impact of Professor K. Ramasubramanian on learners worldwide. His scientific talks are uniquely embedded with melodious Sanskrit chants and verses that are most favored by learners across the world, as it gives a glimpse into the ancient Gurukula systems of India. Let's meet Professor K. Ramasubramanian.
So for a long time, there has been a feeling among most of us Indians that we have been taught mathematics by people who have been aliens to us. There is hardly any provision for the students of India to understand that most of the mathematics that we learn in school is something that has got developed in India. So starting from the Shulva Sutra period, so say around 800 BCE, so when the most fundamental theorem for geometry has been discussed. So to several things that have been developed in India are completely unknown to Indians. So Bhartiya Shiksha Board for the first time felt that we have to make our people understand the significant contributions that have been made by Indians and thereby make them feel that we have been really leaders. This kind of a feeling could not have been developed earlier. So this Shiksha Board is currently attempting to make children aware of their own rich scientific heritage. See, mathematics in India has completely distinct flavor. For instance, when I studied mathematics in school, I distinctly remember I studied in a state board school. There was hardly any element of history attached or any element of the evolution of ideas that took place which led to certain important discoveries. Mathematics, all said and done, is not just solving a problem, but it has to do with enabling the child to think on its own and to trace the evolution of ideas. That is what is most important. And the second thing is, so here mathematics has been presented in a language which is as beautiful as mathematics. So here we find brilliant verses that have been composed, which will not only make the children understand how the language is beautifully integrated with the development of ideas. So merely learning language is one thing. So learning mathematics as a fun in the form of verses is another thing. So all this is enabled in Bhartiya Shiksha board, and this will also enable the child to understand mathematics in a much simpler way. So for instance, I can tell you that when I did learn the sine function, I learned in a particular way. Whereas after my post graduation in physics, when I looked into some of these texts on Indian mathematics and saw how they have treated the sine function, I was simply awestruck. So they try to bring in the geometry and the connected mathematics with this, which I was unable to discover when I did the modern way. So here there is an attempt which has been made to simplify things and then visualize them. So this is something which will be definitely brought into, and this will be extremely useful for children to appreciate mathematics in a much better way. This curriculum will not only impact math learning, as I understand, this will impact the entire learning process. In fact, NEP has repeatedly said that we have to make our children rooted in our culture. So if you are not introducing certain things which have been developed here and make them understand that we have not been inferior to other civilizations, so building in self-confidence among children is not going to take place. In fact, I must tell you that on my repeated visits to China, I realized that they have been making their children appreciate their scientific and technological heritage by building in huge museums. And in different ways, they have achieved this over the past 30-40 years. For some reason, we Indians felt that we need not do this, and time has come where we do this. This is not only for this, building a certain pride and confidence. I would also say, I am quite convinced that this kind of a math learning will enable students to leave out what generally they describe as math anxiety or math phobia. It has to do with how things are taught rather than what is being taught. So here I think we are putting efforts to ensure that mathematics is learnt with fun, mathematics is learnt with relevant examples which they can connect with their day-to-day life. In fact, all the mathematical texts which have been authored in India do not necessarily just give the sutras, but they are richly filled with examples from flora and fauna which they can very easily connect. So this has been really lacking, and we have ensured that we will introduce them in our text, which has to do with their own environment. So this is something which is extremely important in math learning. So rote memorization of formula, which is what we have done, and those who are good in doing that, they were able to be successful. But others, they started developing phobia even from class 3, 4, and many people drop out. I think we will ensure through this Bhartiya Shiksha board to see that we make children appreciate what they learn, understand in a much better way, have more fun in learning, and also realize that mathematics is an integral part in their day-to-day life.